Good afternoon and welcome to the Progress community for MarkLogic. Thank you for joining us today for our May edition of the webinar. We've got quite a packed agenda today with lots of product updates as well as a bit of inside baseball inside of Progress. And from that we have a special guest, which is Shirley Knowles. She's a Progress Chief Inclusion and Diversity Officer. She's going to talk to you about how we try and raise people's voices in here and ideas, and give people platforms where they can feel confident to voice their ideas around product innovation, how messaging works, and things like that, and coming from a safe and secure place. Following that, we've got an update to the MarkLogic server, which is 11.2. So we've got a whole host of new features that are going to be in that release. And then we've also got the Data Hub update from our team from the product management. After which we will then go to, as normal, our live Q&A. So feel free to ask questions, put those in the chat, or ask the questions. It's a little tab on your right-hand side of your screen there. You can ask your questions, and we'll try and get through to as many of these as we can live. If we get a number of them, then we might have to follow up with you, but we'll make sure we get you the right answers and connect you to the right people. We've got a whole host of resources, and some of these I can see people posting almost daily on our ideas platform at the moment, which is great. If you want to find past events, there's a community code playlist there. Like I say, our ideas platform, if you've got an idea for a new feature or function that you want to get reviewed by to be honest, the team that's on the call today, then feel free to post that. It's for the overall Progress data platform, which includes both MarkLogic and our sister technology, which you've heard an awful lot about, Semaphore. We've also got a community portal where you can access knowledge-based articles, documentation, blogs, and more. That's all a single source for all things MarkLogic. So whether you're looking for a download or looking for information, you can find that there. And then lastly, but not least, we've got the community forum. And this is, again, another place where you can kind of share what you're doing in the community, your successes. I think we had somebody recently inquire about posting jobs on there for looking for MarkLogic resource. And you can ask questions to our team that moderates the forum here, the team of expert engineers and developers who've got a whole host of experience using MarkLogic. So it's a great place to get those queries that maybe fall outside of a support ticket, maybe around application development or systems development, that type of thing. We're running this, we keep running the community feedback session. We really want to hear from you. We want ideas for future sessions, speakers that you'd like to see. Let us know, and we can go from there. And then we've also got the June events coming up. So on the 5th of this month, we've got a Bright Talk Data and Analytics and AI Summit, where we're moving Gen AI from research and development into production, how we're doing that with customers today. So that should be an interesting session. We're also going to be kicking off a new webinar series that's going to go across June, July, and September, and August as well, but we're going to take a break for the summer there. It's going to be around smarter content. The first session is going to be unlocking valuable content through structured content creation. So please feel free to check that out on the website. You can go to progress.com/webinars. In person, we've got the Summer Tag Ung, and I'm terrible. I spent 10 years in Germany, but hopefully I didn't butcher that too much. That's on the 5th and 6th. So if you want to meet us, you're in Germany or in Europe, then feel free to come along to that. That's on the 5th and 6th of this month. So with that whistle-stop tour of all of the stuff that we've got available to speak, we're now joined by Shirley Knowles to talk about inclusivity and diversity in Progress. Shirley, there we go, perfect. Oh. I will hand over the presenting powers to you now. There we go.
Excellent, thank you. And thank you all for allowing me to come and sit in and join you today. I just wanted to, again, talk about IND what it means to us here at Progress and how we have really expanded the work around this to ensure that people do feel empowered to raise their voices, whether it's various viewpoints, perspectives, or new ideas around products and initiatives that we can roll out. And that is certainly true for our MarkLogic community as well. So walking through the slides here, I just wanted to give you all an overview of our team. So it's a mighty team of 2. I will actually be celebrating my 3-year anniversary next week at Progress in this role as Chief Inclusion and Diversity Officer. I have one team member, Courtney Gagne, who had a career in communications, as actually did I before I moved over into the I&D space. A majority of my career has been in corporate communications. And so Courtney moved from a social media manager role here at Progress to the I&D team in October of 2021. And so if you look at our community of people, there are so many folks that volunteer that really help us to advance some of this inclusion and diversity work. So first off, we have our employee resource groups, of which there are 7 various groups that we allow all of our employees to join. You don't have to identify with one group in order to join. You can join any of them. We have our I&D committee, which actually has 4 separate subcommittees that focuses on wellness. We have our listening tour, which I'll talk about in a moment. We have our inclusive leadership group and a group that's focused on I&D communications. We also look a lot to leadership development. So being a part of the I&D work is not just cultural celebrations and heritage months, but it's also developing leaders. And I know that there are many people, not all, but many people who aspire to move into leadership roles, to be the person that folks see as the innovator and can inspire others. And so we do a lot of that with I&D, as well as various learnings, employee support, and then looking at global cultural education. So various cultural norms, globally, it's all different. So what I may do here in Florida, in the United States of America, and the way that I may talk to my leader and the way that I may work is very different for someone that may be based in, let's say, Germany. And so all of this is a part of I&D, and we continue to expand this as much as possible to make sure that we are being as inclusive as possible to all of our people that work for Progress, but also looking at our external customers that may be very interested in some of the work that we're doing. We'd love to hear feedback, even if it's constructive, on how we could be better. And so that's pretty much the makeup of our team of 2 and then our volunteers. So this year we have 3 focus areas, which I call ACE. And so it's centered around accountability, connection, and education. There's a lot of words here, and some of us may be faster readers than others. So all of this is on our external progress.com page. But essentially, to just summarize these areas, we want to make sure that every employee, so that's C staff or CEO staff, all the way down to someone who may be joining our organization right out of college, understands what we're trying to do around creating this workplace of belonging. And we want folks to feel valued, respected, and supported. Again, going back to product development, we want folks to be able to feel comfortable bringing up new ideas, to making new connections with one another, but also our external audiences. And we have measurements in place, although we don't always publicly promote them. We do have things that we are measuring to make sure that our leaders are holding themselves accountable, as well as our employees. The second area around connection, We want to continue building this strong relationship between our employee resource groups and our internal audiences and our external communities. And that may be in the way of nonprofits and NGOs globally. And so we have several of our resource groups that do donations, various volunteer activities with external groups that really do align with some of the goals and values of our employee resource groups in our I&D committee. And then finally, education. And this is really at the core of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. If I am not constantly educating our audiences on why this work is applicable to them, I've lost, right? And so I'm constantly thinking of, oh, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We should do a session on men and mental health, right? And why it's so important and how it's stigmatized for some men to talk about what they're going through. And so the education piece is big. I have a previous career teaching as an adjunct instructor at a few colleges, and so I'm always big on enlightening people and just letting them know the why behind anything that I am advocating for. And then we have just high level, some of the other focus areas. So I talked about metrics and measurements. We constantly get employee feedback. We just recently wrapped up a listening tour, a global listening tour with our employees. And from that listening tour, we got some just really interesting insight on, one example is the experience of employees who may not actively go into an office, or there may not be an office for them to go into, and feelings of loneliness and disconnect because they're not around colleagues. And so through that information, we can then go back to our CEO staff and our people managers and tell them, hey, it's worth it for you to check in on some of your team members. And actually, maybe a manager needs to be checked in on because they are feeling alone. And so that's just one example of some of the feedback that we got from the listening tour. We obviously have our employee engagement survey that went out in January. And so from that information and from the listening tour, one of the action items that we took was adding in more information around wellness and well-being in this employee engagement survey and pulling that information on work-life balance and whether people feel like they can do their job, especially if they have a very lean team, and also have a personal life and feel like they're okay managing both. So I won't go through all of this stuff here. I will just look at the last two around world events communication. I think for folks that are doing this DEI work, world events, right? So whether it's a war, whether it's a law being passed, whether it's an election local to where our employees are, as a company, we have found ourselves having to navigate between should we say something? And then if we do say something, what is it that we're saying where perhaps we're being neutral or perhaps we're taking a side, but what are we saying and why are we saying it? And what is the impact that it can have on our employees? So that's a big chunk of, well, not a big chunk. I shouldn't say that I'm doing it all the time, but it is a part of my role where I have to drop some of the projects that I may be working on and devote time and energy into what are we saying to our employees. And then the final thing that I just wanted to add here, and there's a link, but we have our CSR program. Our 2023 CSR report came out at the end of March. Highlights all of the work that just a sea of progress folks are doing. In the photo here, we have one of the fabulous MarkLogic folks that came over to Progress and immediately jumped into a role as one of our employee resource group leaders. And there's just been so much benefit just hearing them talk about it, being a leader or one of the leaders of our resource groups and being able to give back to the community through CSR. And so you're even seeing that connection point as well, where someone new is coming to the company through an acquisition and is just really thriving and finding their own community within Progress. I have a couple of other slides here, and I won't stay too long on this, but we do talk about the various dimensions of diversity. There are folks that may think that diversity is just physical, so how I see someone and making judgments based off of that. But you also have the cognitive, the occupational, and then relational and societal. And those other three areas are what we really try to focus more on. So you're coming into an organization through an acquisition. Okay, so perhaps those acquired folks have that relational connection point because you all went through that experience together. Communication style is big. I'm an introvert. Many folks would not guess that, but I may not do as well, or I may not be as strong in a large group. But if I'm one-on-one with someone, that's where I feel like I shine most, right? And so being able to communicate that to people and say, hey, you know, we're in this large group together, but I want to connect with you offline, and really diving deep with folks and listening to them. That has been beneficial to me, as I'm sure it is to many folks on this call. So this is just some of the, again, big stuff here that I wanted to share with you around how we're looking at diversity. And then the final slide here is just from a results perspective, looking at the full year of 2023 and some of the highlights that we were really able to accomplish there. So I won't read through all of this, but I'm just really proud of the work that we have done across Progress. For those of you on the call that are interested in getting involved or who felt like you didn't know where to jump in, I'm always here, and as is Courtney. And I would also say to folks externally to Progress, right? If I were doing this presentation at a conference somewhere with people who just didn't know a lot about Progress, the one thing that I like to leave them with is the fact that in order to do the work well, you have to expand. You have to hear the feedback from folks that just say, I don't get any of this and I don't support it, and here's why. Because through that insight, you become a stronger leader, and you're really able to touch more individuals who also may not get it, but would benefit from a lot of the work that we are doing here. So that's my final slide. Again, thank you all for having me here. And if there are any questions, I am around, but I will leave it at that.
Shelley, thank you very much for sharing that. Like I say, we want to raise people's ideas both in the community and internally. There's a question, we'll get to that at the end, but there's a question in the chat already around your presentation. So okay. Thank you. I'm going to hand over now to James. So let me just make James the presenter. There we go. And he's going to discuss the MarkLogic Server 11.2 release and product developments in that area. So James, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk about 11.2 release and some couple of upcoming things. So real quick, I'm James Kerr. I'm the product manager, product owner for MarkLogic Server. Been with MarkLogic a long time. Started back in 2006 in a bunch of different roles, but currently work in product management and engineering. So today, real quick agenda, we talk about MarkLogic Server 11.2, so the features, capabilities. Don't have a lot of time, so it'll go pretty fast. You know, always interested to talk to customers and users, so happy to talk more in a follow-up forum about specific features and questions on them. And I'll talk a little bit about a couple of things that are coming up next. So 11.2, our strategic themes, we're modernizing our platform, making it easier for people to develop software on MarkLogic, and really reducing the cost of ownership, making it easier for to get data in and get data out of the platform. These are all the sort of high-level themes that we're focused on for 11.2. So here's some highlights, and I'm going to drill into a couple of these in more detail. but yeah, just at a real high level, Optic Update is a new feature that we added in 11.0. And I have a whole slide on this, so I'll go through in more detail, but this allows you to update your documents through the Optic API, which is MarkLogic's multi-model query and now update language as well. We added support for OAuth 2.0 with OpenID Connect support using JWT tokens. We made some improvements to the admin UI, rebranded it, exposed some new metrics for monitoring. There's a couple things on here which are not specific to MarkLogic server itself, but coincide with the 11.2 release, which is Corticon, which is our Progress product for externalizing business rules in a rules engine. So we recently released the capability to run those rules developed in Corticon, can run them directly in MarkLogic, so those rules can run close to the data. And then Semaphore platform has the most recent release has a more tightly integrated capability with MarkLogic server, and that was released along in the 11.2 timeframe as well. So drilling into a few of these features, so Optic Update. So just to be clear, this isn't an update about Optic, it's the Optic Update feature. 11.2 makes the Optic Update feature generally available. It was released in early access, or so technology preview, sorry, in 11.0. New capabilities we added were the ability to patch documents via Optic API. So instead of having to fetch the document, make the changes and push it back, you can use declarative syntax in the Optic API to say increment a number across all of the documents that match a certain criteria. It made the error handling more robust. There's a new REST endpoint for using the Optic Update DSL, which is a domain-specific language. And of course, a bunch of new documentation to help get you working with the Optic Update capabilities. As I mentioned, we added support for OAuth 2.0, supporting the OpenID Connect flow, where you can use an external authentication server to authenticate and grant tokens to the user, and then use those tokens to access a resource server, which is MarkLogic server. So in this flow, MarkLogic server is the resource server, and you can use OpenID Connect with JWT to grant access or not to the database and the data stored within it, right? So that's supporting all the normal mapping of roles and authorization that happens on the MarkLogic server side. Tested with a number of these, but OpenID Connect is a fairly well adopted standard. So we use with Ping Identity, Microsoft Entra, Amazon Cognito, but expect it to work with others as well. One note is in 11.0 we added some OAuth support for an introspection access token validation, but we've learned that that's not really the flow that people are expecting to use with MarkLogic servers. So as of 11.2, that introspection flow is deprecated, so it's not available to use anymore. But as I said, it's clear that that's not the one that most users need, and the OpenID Connect flow is more commonly used. We've made some more updates to the admin UI. So the MarkLogic 11 line changed or kicked off a change of look and feel of all of the user interfaces shipped with the server. 11.2 make some new changes to that around the branding of the colors and the icons, et cetera, right? So as part of becoming part of a member of the Progress portfolio, we've rebranded all the servers, new colors, new fonts and icons, et cetera. But we've made a bunch of improvements on the performance as well. So we made a number of improvements to the database status and the forest status pages, the pages that require fetching a lot of detailed metrics in order to display the statuses. We made some performance improvements to make those pages load better on large clusters. And we also added a number of dialogues on those status pages. So if the database was reindexing or rebalancing, that information was sort of buried down at the bottom. Now there's dialogues that you can use to track the status of the rebalancing, reindexing, refragmenting jobs that are running. So that makes the status pages a little more lightweight to load by themselves, and then it makes it easier to sort of track the progress of these jobs that are running just via these modal dialogues that you can use. Some additional features. We made some changes to optimize the way we handle configuration changes. So in large-scale production systems that are sort of running at the edge of performance, there are certain configuration changes that can cause degradation in performance. So 11.2 added a new framework that allows us to only clear caches and make changes that might impact performance only when necessary. So we've added support for recognizing a number of configuration changes, but we will continue to add more and more to that, such that when you're making changes to the database configuration that don't require, say, detection of the indexes or clearing of the caches, the database won't do that anymore, therefore reducing the impact on performance for production systems. Elastic load balancer support in XCC. So you've long been able to use XCC through load balancers, but the elastic load balancers that scale, they scale out and they scale back in. XCC in the past had troubles recognizing when those load balancer scaling events happened, and with 11.2, we've added some more intelligence, so XCC can more gracefully handle those scale out and scale back events on the cloud-based load balancers. Queue size metric. There's a metric that's been there for a long time. It helps you understand, the backlog of requests that are being processed by the app server. You can now see that in the admin UI and in the monitoring history. SHA-256, SAML, the authentication signatures, you can now sign them with SHA-256. The bucket assignment policy used to be limited to 1024 forests. That's now increased to 2048. This was the only assignment policy that had a hard limit to the number of forests that you could have. Just a side note on this doesn't fundamentally change our recommendation to keep your forests around 1024 forests. But as some customers are running into that limitation, we wanted to give a little more room to be able to allow customers to grow the systems and maybe adjust the topology of the clusters as they reach those sort of large numbers of forests. And then last but not least, a whole bunch of bug fixes. So we fixed a bunch of bug fixes as usual in our minor releases. So real quick, we'll talk about what's next. Standard disclaimer, this product roadmap, it's not a commitment, etc. So real quick view of the release roadmap for MarkLogic Server. 11.0 came back in December 2022. We did 11.1, and 11.2 was the last release here back in April. 11.2 was the first release in our new lifecycle policy that was released back in March, and 11.2 is what we call an innovation release. Innovation releases allow you to get new features right away, but as each innovation release comes out, the previous innovation release is immediately retired. 11.3 is coming in June, so it's coming up very fast here at the end of June. This will be our first long-term support release. Long-term support release comes with a different model where we are only releasing bug fixes, making it easier for you to adopt and stick to a long-term support release, and make it easier for you to upgrade and make sure you stay current with bug fixes and security patches. Coming up in July, we'll have an early access for MarkLogic 12, which will include some exciting new features around vector search and new support for BM25 scoring and some new graph algorithms. Looking out further, we're also in the process of adding certifying MarkLogic for new operating systems like Red Hat 9, Amazon Linux 2023. I know a lot of people are waiting for these. And we have some great, exciting new features coming in MarkLogic 12 as well, but we'll talk more about that at a later date. So real quick, a little bit more about the 11.3 LTS. As I mentioned, this is a release. The LTS model is meant to make it easier for you to upgrade and accept patch releases with the understanding that there's not going to be new features, minimum changes to the product, ensuring the easiest path of upgrade for you. That's a 4-year active maintenance window. This LTS release has very minimal changes between 11.2 and 11.3. It's sort of by definition, but we are making some improvements to the Optic engine. And of course, more bug fixes as always. One item that I wanted to highlight here, and I would like to wanted to put it out there to see if I get feedback from anybody that might be on the call, is we are having to remove what's called our legacy language stemmers. So back in MarkLogic 9 in 2017, we released we replaced the language stemmers, and we introduced a feature called the language baseline. This is a cluster level setting, and we introduced the ML9 language baseline and a legacy language baseline. So legacy was, anybody that was prior to MarkLogic 9 would be on legacy, but that feature was deprecated back when MarkLogic 9 came out. The legacy language stemmers were deprecated, and in 11.3 we were having to actually remove those stemmers because the vendor who provided the libraries, the third-party libraries, is no longer supporting that product. So we're having to remove those libraries from MarkLogic Server. So the cluster level language baseline setting will only support MarkLogic 9 starting with 11.3. So if you're using the legacy language baseline right now, I would like to ask you to file ticket with support just to let us know. We're expecting this to only impact a couple of customers that we know about, but if you look at your cluster configuration and you see that you're using this, let us know, because we'd like to make sure we can assist you in your upgrade process to 11.3. With that, that's the end of my content. I think we'll save questions to the end, and I'll turn it over to question.
Cheers, James. Thank you very much. And Christian, you are up next. I don't know how you're going to follow that. There's quite a lot of content in there, so hopefully you've got some good things to tell us about the Data Hub and what we're doing with that. So no pressure. Yeah?
Not at all.
Please keep your questions coming in. Like James said, he's looking for feedback on these features, and so will Christian as well. So yeah, please keep them coming in. And Christian, it's over to you.
All right, great. Thank you all. Welcome, and thank you for letting me join the MarkLogic Community event. My name is Christian Ollenborger. I'm the product manager and product owner for Data Hub. So I'm here to tell you about what is coming in 6.1. Let me get right to it. Okay, so 6.1, I have three main features that I'll just be walking through via slides, and then I'll show you as well in the app. So the centerpiece, in my opinion, is we improved our knowledge graph rendering software. It was open source library with Viz.js, and we've upgraded that to Regraph by Cambridge Intelligence. Has a lot new, offers a lot of new capabilities and presents just a lot cleaner. So we're pretty pleased with that. We added a settings menu for applying evenly all your settings across your environment, and a new diagnostics task from your command line interface. So the knowledge graph, again, it's a cleaner, crisper presentation of semantic data and relationships. It'll help you explore your data, draw insights faster. You can zoom in and kind of quiet some of the noise as well. So I will get in and show you that. The global settings menu, this is as you log in, you can go and apply settings across your environment. We've thrown a few in here. I'll show you those. And yeah, this will no doubt grow as we've been going along. We've identified more things that we thought would be valuable to add. And lastly, the debug manager, I'll show you a scenario in which a user may have found something wrong with their environment and could use the debug manager to get in there and learn more and resolve it. So with that, let me log into the hub. Okay, so this is the main landing page, and what you'll notice first is this little icon gear here. If I click on this, it opens up a modal and has some settings. And so the sort of order of operations here is you can define your settings. They'll apply across your environment unless you go to the flow level and make a setting. So in general, like just to go with provenance granularity, we know that provenance can be expensive from a resource perspective. Perhaps you want to set it to coarse-grained across your environment, but then if you go into a flow and that is of particular interest, you could go in and make that fine-grained just so that you can get all the information you need to sort of have a chain of custody of your data. Falsy values when mapping, you can choose to either retain or discard anything that's not what you would choose or what you would expect. You can apply permissions. You can go in here and send them out to your targets. And then you can also, with entity validation, you can set it to validate what happens when you're mapping your data. Okay, so next I will show you the knowledge graph. First, we'll go to the modeling tab. So first off, this already probably presents a little bit of a cleaner representation here. I just like the click drag functionality here. And in the past, if I wanted to create a relationship, I had to go into this drop down and add, and then find and connect my data. Here I can do it live. So if I wanted to connect these two entities, I can just hover over the little plus symbol here. I can click and drag it, And then right in the screen, the modal pops up. I can define the relationship. I can also define the direction of the relationship, if it's one way or bidirectional, etc. So just a much nicer interface to do this. And then in the Explore screen here, number one, you'll see, even though it's taking a second to load, this does load much faster than the Viz.js graph. He says as the circle continues. There we go. Okay. So here we have our knowledge graph, and all the data is presenting right now. If I want, there we go. Okay. So all the data is presenting right now. There's a lot here. If I want to have the system aggregate it for me so that I can quiet some of the noise, now I can click on this little slider here, show groups, and some of my data will be grouped together. If I want to review and just say, wait, what got into this group of service location, I can double click and it'll show me the particular nodes that are in here. So that's much nicer. And actually, I didn't mention in general, for those who are familiar with this view, whenever you would go into Explore in the past, all the nodes, it would take a while for them to sort of find the right spacing from each other. And it would be a little almost distracting. So that is gone. So we're pleased with that. All right. And then the last feature I want to demonstrate for you today is the Hub debug. I have a video of this. So sort of the scenario for this video might be if you were using the Hub and it was not rendering a filtering or faceting page. It might be due to an index being missing. So this demonstrates using Hub debug to real-time assess a index not being there. So my colleague here is calling the Hub debug command in Gradle. Yeah, he's passing username and password. Speed. Yeah, it's 1 point. All right, there we go. Passing username and password in here. You don't actually have to do that. You can put it into a file. I hope there's no security people on here because it's not a very secure password. All right, so when this runs, it pumps out a lot of status information here. Not the easiest to read right here, but what you'll see is he opens up a text file and then is going to drop that in there and then format the data so it looks more JSON-esque. Okay, so what I'll do at this point is look for index that might not be there that could be breaking the hub. And so this, as far as a debug scenario, is a little bit backwards in that you'll see that the index is true. He will then go into MarkLogic server and delete it, run this again, and you'll see the index existing will be false because he would have just deleted it. So in real life, that would have been in the other order, but the purpose of the video is to just demonstrate that it is grabbing it. The proof of concept is valid. So there it is. The customer identifier is the index. Okay, now I'll go into server. And find that path range index. Yep, that's the one, and then we'll delete it. and then go back and rerun the command. Format again, and then he'll search for that index and validate that it has changed. There it is now, it is false. So there we go. That is the hub debug command. And that is it for what I have today, although I do want to note stuff that's coming in the future. Includes some integration with Semaphore and Corticon. I didn't make a slide for that, but we are working on those for future releases as well. All right, well, that is all that I have for you today. I will pass the floor back to Phil.
Great. Well, leave your camera on because we'll dive straight into the Q&A. So if you could join us live, Shirley and James, because I think, Shirley, I've got the first question going to you, and I hope it's not a tough one. I think you kind of touched on it as you were speaking, but I also think it should resonate with our audience here. The question is, how does DE&I advance the work you are doing? How does DE&I address your customers' needs?
So it depends on the customer that you're talking about, right? So we have our internal customers, which would be our employees. And then you have your external customers, which could be, folks that are investing in Progress that may care about the makeup of our board of directors, our executive team, and our employees. And so I always say that the business case for DEI is, if you're looking at it from a financial perspective or an ROI perspective, wouldn't you want to have a diverse team of people that are working on a product so that if you're selling to a more global, diverse audience, you know the ways in which you need to sell that product to the various folks around the world in a way that would resonate with them. And so that is the business case. I mean, there are a number of studies that have shown that more diverse teams and organizations are more profitable. And it's remembering how we're defining diversity. So it's not just how you look, but it's also skill set, education level. So some people that may join Progress have never gone to college or university, but they might be the smartest person on that team, right? And so it's just thinking about all of those different components as we look at internal and external customers. But I can tell you that based off of the awards and recognition that we have received globally around this work, both inclusion and diversity and CSR, people are noticing and people really like the way that we do this work at Progress.
Yep.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and I think as well from a product perspective, I'm looking after the messaging around our AI initiatives and Gen AI and large language models and things like that. There's a consideration there around data bias, and you talked about biases within there. Bias exists within your data. You're all MarkLogic customers, you probably know this, and so by exposing that bias at an operational level, at a business level, can make people think about, oh, well, actually, there's probably some in my data as well. Right. And exposing that bias and correcting for it so that you get the best results can mean that whatever you're building, whatever product you're building on that data is more improved and will deliver more value to you and your customers as well. So yeah, so thank you very much, Shirley, for
we're going to add you to the DEI team at Progress. I like the way that you articulated that. So you can moonlight on our team as well. But yes, data bias is obviously one of the big topics that is prevalent right now, especially in the technology space as AI continues to boom and influence the way that people are working. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, no worries at all. So we've got a question. I know that James has put it in the chat, but I just want it for the on-demand audience. They're interested in Rocky Linux Docker image support and would love to hear about that. So yeah, I know you've put the answer in there, but I just want to get that on the on-demand recording as well.
Yeah, thanks, because I do need to clarify it. I realized it was grouped under the wrong heading on that slide, so it's a typo. The Docker images we have, we just released them the other day, are support for Red Hat 8 UBI, so the Universal Base Image. And we can run those images in both privileged or non-privileged or rootless mode to make sure they adhere and can run in the most sort of secure lockdown environments. The mention of Rocky Linux, that pertains to our Azure images. So currently the images on our Azure images in the Azure Marketplace are built off of CentOS 7, which is end of life this coming in June. It's done. So yeah, we're rebuilding those. Those will be based off of Rocky Linux 8. So that's the connection to Rocky Linux. There is our Azure VM images will be based off of Rocky Linux, but our new Docker images are based off of Red Hat UBI.
Yeah, great. And for what I saw with Christian's presentation, where you were talking about the future work that you're doing, so we're looking to bring those technologies even more tightly integrated, are we, with the Data Hub and the MarkLogic server with Semaphore? Is that correct?
Yeah, we're working on a feature now where we're going to be implementing to use Semaphore generated knowledge models. Previously, users could use them, but they would have to remap their data. So we want to take that away, so they're just the mapping can occur when you import the knowledge model. Great,
no, that's really good. And James, you had some features that caught my eye that are coming up, especially around the sort of Gen AI piece. That vector search looks quite interesting, and that's coming up. But did you say in July on that slide?
In early access, yeah. So that's the vector search capability we're working on right now is targeted for the MarkLogic 12 release, but we're planning an early access at the end of July. So you'll be able to get an initial version of the vector search capability and try it out and give us feedback. And that's going to be available through our customer validation program, the CVP. So you'll have to sign up through the CVP and be able to download the early access through that program. And,
yeah, so I guess the best way for customers to get engaged with that and get access would be to contact their account manager or customer success manager, and we'll connect you to the right people.
Yeah, we're still in the process of enabling that CVP platform for the MarkLogic and Semaphore customers. So that's coming soon, July at the latest.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's good to see. I think it's good to see in both sides of the actual server and then the Data Hub is that usability, interoperability, making it more accessible for people, taking that UI-based approach and improving the UI within with MarkLogic server as well. I think that's really good, and that kind of goes to the next question. And I'll put Christian on the spot here. But in your opinion, how easy or complicated / feasible would it be to create a Spanish version of the Data Hub products?
Yeah, we are looking at offering up more languages. That's definitely something on our roadmap, an identified issue for sure. Yeah, I don't have a date for you, but it's on our roadmap for sure.
Yeah, no, that'd be really good. Like I say, opening up to more people, more users. I know there's like I say, we've got quite a few partners in Spanish-speaking locations that are working with some quite large customers as well. So yeah, it'd be great to see that in the future. Well, I think we have got to the end of the questions there from the audience. I just want to take the time to thank Shirley for your input there, for the insight into what we're doing. It's really great to see. It's really great to see the recognition as well that your efforts have been recognised externally with those awards. So thank you very much. Thank you to James and Christian for giving us a bit of inside baseball in terms of the new features that were released, but also what's coming down the pipeline as well. If you want to learn more about this, there are some links in the chat, but you can always go to progress.com/MarkLogic. You can join us in our community forum and hub. And as always, if you've got any ideas, please do use our ideas portal. We're getting some really good ideas coming through there. There's some really good discussion internally around some of those, and we're actively looking to develop on those. So yeah, thank you very much to our speakers. Thank you to the audience, and we will see you again next time.